Hey, Chip, paper, rock, scissors, go. Oh, we tied. All right, never mind. That didn't go according to plan. I told you to be ready. Anyway, welcome to All About the Birds, everybody. The weekly report, the flagship show on the All About the Birds network. I am Phil Stiefel, joined Jeff Warner, NFL Jeff. We got Johnny Uleka, and we got Jim Peggy. We are the fiercest foursome there is in Philly sports podcasting. We cover it all here. And real quick, before we get into today's show, we got to shout out all of our great sponsors, Hemp Bombs, premium CBD products. Get the promo code AATBirds for 20% off, hempbombs.com. We've got 99 Jersey, 99jersey.com. Kick-ass jerseys. AAT Birds get you 20% off on their website as well. We also have Manscaped. As they always say, your balls will thank you. Check them out at manscaped.com. Not only do you get 20% off, you also get free shipping with the promo code AATBirds. And we got to shout out Statement Games, our new sponsor. I put a sign-up link in the comments section. Check them out. It's a new free form of fantasy football, gambling, and all that kind of stuff. They do football, baseball, basketball, golf, the works over on their website. Great site, statementgames.com. So, gentlemen, after that mouthful, Chip, real quick, paper, rock, scissors, go.
Rock, paper, scissors.
The lag, it's just not working here. So it's 1-0-1 right now. This is not working out. You will get it right sometime tonight, Chip, when I shout you out. So we're going to get started tonight. Obviously, huge press conference. Well, I wouldn't call it huge. A press conference. Howie Roseman and company, Nick Sirianni, Andy Waddle. The whole team was there for a press conference for reporters. It went about 38 minutes. That's right. Manscaped is wipe approved. Love it. Love that comment from Jennifer right there. Love it absolutely.
Wow.
So this press conference today was to talk about draft strategy, and we were trying to see if we could learn anything about who has the power and whatnot. So I asked the question, guys, did we learn anything from today's press conference about what's coming up in the next 8 days with the NFL draft?
Nope.
They're not going to tell you what they're going to do, though.
Right. They're not going to tell you what they're going to do, but you could hypothetically learn things from what they say. And honestly, there was nothing learned anywhere, in my opinion, because it was just the same. You didn't get any answer from them that was any different than any other, press conference from Howie Roseman.
Yeah, it was exactly what my wife says. She goes, it's just another opportunity for them to be in the news. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it. They want to be in the news, and so they had a press conference a week before the draft. And then they're going to have one after the draft to introduce their draft picks. And then they're probably going to have one next week to talk about how they're going to be setting. Like, it's cool. Cool.
All right, so let's get to. I mean, obviously, there's lots in the interview that we could talk about, like paper, rock, scissors. Which we're going to get into.
Paper, scissors, get it right.
What is it? Rock, scissors, paper.
It's what you wrote here.
Rock, paper, scissors, rock. You're butchering it, bro.
I'm purposely butchering it. Relax.
I know.
DJ Spazzy Jeff there. Take it down a notch.
Hey, I can't take it down after that abysmal press conference that we had to witness today to basically know what we all thought we knew and realizing that this signing of Sirianni made total sense. We keep on saying that he was on the team's radar, and this is why. This dude is going to sit there and he's going to be all enthusiastic about trying to do rock, paper, scissors to freaking draft prospects, but try to determine their competitiveness. We are becoming a freaking laughing stock of the NFL. We were worried about the owner and the general manager. We have to worry about a fucking head coach now because what NFL coach in their right mind would openly admit that in a press conference on how they're judging prospects? First off, we don't judge prospects based off the freaking scouts. We judge them off analytics, and now we're judging them on base rock, paper, scissors. Come on, dude.
So real quick, before I know Johnny, you want to say something, but that was like our highest rated segment. We gained so many listeners during Jeff's rant there. It went from like 19 to 28 in like 2 seconds there. So more DJ Spazzy Jeff is what we need.
Well,
Johnny,
we we got all the people back after Jen's comment about Jeff's Manscaped, but
Yeah.
the thing is, your competitiveness. The funny thing is, the Alabama receivers play rock, paper, scissors for competitiveness all the time. It doesn't matter. Yes, he said that, but he's so enthusiastic. People bitch and complain about Andy Reid when he was here. He didn't give you that much info. They criticized him. You criticize a guy if he's so enthusiastic too. It doesn't matter. Philadelphia is going to bitch about something because what they do, they find the littlest thing and they complain about it.
But the thing is, it's not about the enthusiasm. Who cares? I'm happy he's enthusiastic. That's one of the positives from him. But the fact that a head coach is saying this crap on how they're judging prospects, how you expect to gain a locker room and gain the respect of a locker room when you're doing antics like this? And how are you supposed to get those leaders behind him and believe in him? That the veterans, because these young guys that are upcoming up, we have 11 draft picks. These rookies are going to go to these veterans, and the veterans are the ones that have to build this locker room to believe in Sirianni. And this is now his third press conference. First one, we gave him a little mulligan because it was his first press conference.
A lot of people did not give him a mulligan. A lot of people
I'm not saying everyone, but me personally, I gave him a mulligan.
As a team.
Yeah, you pass it to the side, but now this is his third press conference, and we continue to see the same antics from your head coach. I just hope.
Yeah, I don't see it as antics. I see it as a young guy. Right, the rock paper scissors thing. I mean, it's fucking stupid, but
go.
Yeah,
you're waiting till I go to see what I got.
Anyway, as I'm eating another one of these because they're delicious, Jeff.
They're
delicious, Jeff.
Eating on air.
Eating on air is a big no-no, supposedly, on this.
No, it's not antics. I mean, the rock, paper, scissors thing is, for sure. But I watched this press conference and I went, he's excited. He's passionate. If nothing else, that's what's going to get across to these players. You can stand in front of people and do the Charlie Brown teacher routine like Doug Peterson did and talk about vanilla ice cream. You can stand in front of them. He's excitable. If nothing else, he is excited to be there. They will, just like George said, they will buy into his energy. And from there, the passion will start to seep through. Now, whether or not it turns into good football is yet to be determined.
I mean, you guys all say it pretty well. And so at one point, one thing I want to give a report or a positivity to is that the reporters in Philadelphia pressed. When they asked a question, a specific question, and they got the runaround, they kept following up almost like a team. The reporters were teaming and not gagging up, but going after it. So obviously the first thing I want to touch on from the press conference, outside the overall aspect of it, was about the 14-minute mark. Howie was flat out asked, does trading back to 12 mean Jalen Hurts is your starter going into camp? Now, I know George is going to say it's no big deal, but I think it is. Howie doesn't say it's number one, that Hurts is number one. He does say that the 49ers trade does guarantee that first three picks are going to be quarterbacks. But, what does it say, or what do you take meaning from about them not committing to Hurts at all? It can't just all be that Nick Sirianni's, everybody's going to be a competing for jobs thing. There's got to be more to it, doesn't there?
So I heard this quote, and basically what it came down to for me with the whole not giving Jalen Hurts the job right away, who cares? Flacco's not going to beat him out for the job, so it doesn't really matter that he's not saying, hey, Jalen Hurts has the job. More importantly, it's also, look, Nick Sirianni is the head coach. He's maybe talked with Jalen, but there haven't been voluntary workouts. There haven't been OTAs. There haven't been training camp. There haven't been mini camps. They haven't really seen him play. So for Nick Sirianni to go out and say, yes, he's the starter, you're re-anointing a quarterback, which we just got into trouble for when we anointed Wentz the quarterback.
You said Joe Flacco is not beating out Jalen Hurts, right?
He's not.
We can all agree that there's no way Joe Flacco beats out Jalen Hurts. So what harm is there in saying Jalen Hurts is our number one quarterback going into training camp?
Complacency.
It's up to him to keep it and hold it, because there's no way. The only way Jalen Hurts is not under center on game one is if they draft a quarterback in the first round, which we can get into that later and all. But there's no way that the Eagles front office will admit to the Jalen Hurts mistake, if it was a mistake, by putting Joe Flacco out there. They will not do that. There is zero chance. So why not just say he is our starter at this moment? It's up to him to keep it or lose it. John,
because what happened when his first press conference about competition, everything's about competition. He says he
enjoyed
himself. Then all of a sudden people say,
there is no competition.
No, it's not. Like I said, Philadelphia fans are going to take every little thing. It doesn't matter what you say. It's going to take anything small and turn it into something. It's not that big of a deal.
And that's what we're turning it into. We're turning it into something because based off of his statements, that is saying that Joe Flacco has a shot to beat out Jalen Hurts, which we know there is no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to get beat by Joe Flacco because that would be an epic failure and an epic mistake admitted to that they're not going to admit to.
Well, the reason is because day one, when Sirianni was hired here, in his first press conference, he said every job there is going to be up for grabs. It's going to be a competition. So by them saying that Hurts is your starter now, he goes back for a new head coach, goes back to his locker room by saying this job is already sealed and fated.
But he could say exactly what I said.
I agree, but they're not going to.
Starting job for now, but it's up to him to keep it or not lose it. That is still leaving the door open for competition per se. But on the flip side of the equation, it's giving Jalen Hurts, and it's telling the fans what we all already know. Every radio personality, every TV personality, every podcaster, every fan knows Jalen Hurts is quarterback one right now. Every player in that locker room knows Jalen Hurts is quarterback one. So I don't want to hear it. I'm guessing something bad happened in the Sixers game.
It was almost the most epic buzzer. It was almost the most epic buzzer beater in the history of the NBA, but it wasn't.
He heaved it and it came in and out of the freaking bucket.
Yeah. Anyway, now I keep saying this word, complacency, right? So the one thing that you don't want, especially as a new coach, is to say, hey, you're this guy, you're this guy, you're this guy. And if you give Jalen Hurts, who has a very small sample size of playing, the starting job, then there is the chance of him becoming complacent and not working as hard. Right now, he's got a me on his shoulder where he wants to win the job. He's remembering when he lost the job at Alabama, so he worked harder when he went to Oklahoma. He's remembering that all these people are naysaying him, so he's working harder now. If you just say that he's the starter, there is a chance, and I don't think this is Jalen Hurts' mentality, so I don't think this is what's going to happen, but there is a chance that he becomes complacent and then the team becomes complacent. Saying that every spot is available, even though we know that Jalen Hurts is going to win the job, makes it seem that you have to fight for it, and I like the fight.
Now, I'll ask Johnny this part of it. Is there any little ounce of it that's a draft ploy? There are how many quarterbacks, that are potentially top 10, 15, quarterbacks in this draft. Is this just – are they just going to, after the draft is over, say, yeah, he's probably our guy, and they're just using this to hope that some trade or some trade happens where a player falls to us or whatever it may be? Is there any thought to that process at this point at 12?
It could be a draft ploy, but to me, they do it all the time with whatever they say. And to say that, like, if a quarterback drops to them, they could wind up trading out and trading back. But for it to be, maybe we want one of these quarterbacks, I really don't think they want any of these top quarterbacks because basically the top two guys in Wilson and Lawrence those are basically the ones that you'd want. The other guys are kind of all interchangeable. There's a handful of three guys there that could go anywhere between 3 and 9, 10. So I don't think it's a ploy. I think a lot of what they said today, I don't know. I wouldn't call it a ploy because it's really not anything that they're not revealing anything. It's all kind of what we knew and what we knew they were kind of going to say. I don't think I would say it's a ploy. I think they want Hurts.
Yeah. So they obviously he was also asked about the trade back to 12. The why and the thought process behind it. I'll let you guys dive into that, but also, he brought up the fact that they've already had conversations with GMs and teams in front of them and behind them because they are prepared to do a lot of things. But the one thing I want to bring up that they have 12 guys that they like that could potentially go. I think that's – I think he's almost creating too broad of a player pool with that 12th pick. I want them to be zeroed in on that. When they were at 6, there's 3 guys that they really wanted: Pitts, Chase, whoever it may be, and just target those guys. Saying that there's 12 guys they like in the first round at the 12th pick, and that's why they traded there. I think that they're eliminating the difference between the top few guys in the draft and the next tier, and I think that's a problem.
But we also know that there are the top 4 or 5 players are the top 4 or 5 players. I mean, that's just without question. So that's part of the reason why they traded back. But also remember, this team has more holes to fill than just one player. So saying that they like 12 guys is also a way of saying we're going to take the best available player. We're going to take the best available player. Because if there was a guy they were zeroing in on, by the time they get to 12, again, weeks and weeks of me saying this, they think will still be available, they're going to trade back. If they think this player that they really, really like is going to go, it's just them not tipping their hand. I think, they're going to take the North Dakota State quarterback again. Now that we know that Justin Fields has epilepsy, I'm sure that they're already writing his name on the back of a jersey because, that's look, if the Eagles take a quarterback, Philadelphia is going to riot. Let's call it like it is. Philadelphia is going to riot because we are not QBU up here in Philadelphia. This team is bigger than one player fixing.
We're not quarterback U. We're quarterback factory. There's a difference.
I don't think we can call ourselves a factory, though, because that would imply that it's working. So a university is where you develop things. So I have to say we're QBU.
Okay, I got you. Jeff, what do you got to add to that?
I just feel that the whole moving back to 12 and his comments that he has 12 players, yada, yada, yada. Like Chip said, what the top end of the draft is going to be most likely, and those players are not going to be falling to the Eagles. But we continue to see reports that the Eagles are evaluating certain players with the same amount of talent then they feel this talent between 6 and 12 is not that far apart for them to not be able to pass up that type of compensation to get a first rounder for next season. They couldn't pass it up if they feel that there's going to be quality players that they feel that will do them justice and that will be there at 12, and there's still talks on moving back up. They only have to give up a 3rd round pick and still keeping that first. And it's honestly, Howie did well, and I feel people are criticizing him too much.
Howie does do well when
it comes to trades,
whether it's player for draft pick, moving up or down. He gets good value, and I think it was Joe Banner. And I know Joe Banner and Howie Roseman are tight, but a few weeks ago, Joe Banner put out there, a comment and an article about how great of value Howie got for that trade, that it was a really great value. And the fact, like you said, what it would take to move back up, he's still netting so much out of it that it's, that is, like you said, one thing that we're not going to compliment Howie very often here, but it's one thing that he does do well.
Yeah. But think about it, when we're talking about evaluating talent, what we learned today is how are they already evaluating talent? Phil, how are they evaluating talent?
1,
rock,
2,
paper, scissors, shoot.
I got one,
and 2.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take that win. There we go. All right, so going on this draft here, I'm going to skip the next comment. Just going to get back to it in a second. But they also talked a lot about the keys. What are the keys that makes a great draft prospect? And I'd like to get your opinions, guys. So Nick Sirianni mostly answered this. The other 2 did as well. But football IQ, toughness mentally and physically, and a love for football. This is where the whole rock, paper, scissors and Jeopardy came into it. But the other thing, what, in your opinion, Johnny, we can go with you first. Football IQ, toughness, love for football. How would you rank them in the order of importance of drafting a prospect, especially high in the first round?
Well, I would add also scheme fit. You can't pick a guy who is, a 3-4 defensive end and try and make him something he's not. That's another thing you have to.
But we got these notes in the agenda here that Sirianni has said over and over again. He said 4 more times today in the press conference that he doesn't care who the player is. As long as they have those 3 traits, he'll find a way to make them work. So, and he just as much as he says
we're used
competition, he says it even more that it doesn't matter the scheme; it matters, these other 3 things.
Yeah, but what I would say is IQ is definitely up there. I think the love for football to me is 3rd. There's a lot of people who play football that don't absolutely love it, but they're so talented. Like that, the love for football isn't really as the need, the toughness, and the IQ, because especially when you're playing in Philly, you need to be tough. It's just what it is. The fans are going to get on you if you're doing well. If you're doing bad, if you're doing well, they're going to be all for you. But I would say in that order, but you said it: IQ, toughness, and love football. That's kind of how I have those three.
Jeff, anything else there to add to those?
I feel you have to have the love of football. I feel that's a little bit higher than the toughness part of thing. IQ definitely, because if you understand the scheme, I feel when Johnny was pertaining to schemes, the IQ part is what that goes into. You need to understand the game. You need to understand schemes. You understand the playbook, because if you don't pick it up, as we've seen from a lot of former players in the past, if you don't pick up the playbook, you don't have success in this league. So obviously IQ, in my opinion, is definitely number one. But the love of football definitely is there, because if your love of football, it's not just playing on the field, but making sure your body's in shape for the game. You're in there getting reps. You're going. We keep on hearing about Jalen Hurts being down at the NovaCare complex, constantly working in all day long, getting his reps and getting his bench presses in and all that. So I feel the love of the game, because he wants to play well. He wants to play football. It gives you another mindset on how to judge what you're doing in life. So I feel it somewhat ties things into like dieting and exercising and all that type of stuff.
Listen, the only thing, we are in Philadelphia. We have a professional injured reserve team. The only thing that matters is toughness. Do not go out and get some bum that missed X amount of games in college, because guess what? They're going to miss X amount of games in the pros too. Get me somebody that's tough, because you know what? If you're tough, you're at least on the field. We can work with your football IQ at that point. We can make sure you still love the game. But if you're a pansy-ass player because you're not tough, it doesn't matter. I don't need you here. Toughness is the only thing that matters anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all what you said. I still go football. Yeah,
right. It's three different views of the same three words.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I get what George is saying here. It's the same words being rehashed year in and year out. But every coaching staff, every organization, everyone does that. The opinion changes based off of who's in charge, I really think. And, Julie's saying the love of football makes you want to do well and caring about the game. It's all great comments and all on this. So real quick.
What I like about it, though, is when you listen, because we have listened to Sirianni's press conferences. The way he's looking at a good draft prospect is it goes right in line with what he feels that they are going to do as a football team. They're going to keep schemes simple. They're going to get players on the field. They're going to play to the system. So it does match up with what they have. Now it's just about getting players that buy into his excitement, players that want to be here, players that want to be on the field and contribute. You're going to see a movement toward making this team a lot younger, because it's cheaper and it's easier to manipulate young players who haven't been in the league as long.
I agree. So real quick, before we get on the next part of the topic, who else got excited when they heard NJ.com, friend of the show, Mike K, just flat out ask, what do you feel about the perceived lack of success you've had in the draft? I mean, for me, I don't care who asked that question. And Mike K happens to be a friend of the show. I was super excited, because you could just tell how he just the steam's coming out of his ears and stuff. I mean, he was not happy with that question. But isn't it refreshing to at least hear these kind of questions and, pressing on them a lot?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like that it came from Mike K, who's been on the show with us, and we've talked about these things with him. And look, Howie, we know, is going to get shit for the fact that his drafts have not been good, or the results of those drafts haven't been good. They haven't translated to the field. Now, with some of these younger players, there is still time to develop.
Absolutely.
And we're hoping, once again, that Nick Sirianni actually develops players. But yeah, Howie's going to get annoyed because he's getting checked on things.
It's a fair question. So, wide receivers, is there any, have you ever heard of anybody talk so highly of something as Nick Sirianni does of wide receivers? The dude is just sounds like he's on 20 Red Bulls when he starts talking about wide receivers. But
I loved it.
What I really wanted to get into, and again, Johnny, as the draft guy, and you guys asking, he was asked a lot about the X and the wide receiver, what we need at the wide receiver position, and he brought up Keenan Allen versus T.Y. Hilton. Same position played, but two totally different wide receivers. It's a great point that he actually brought up there, Nick Sirianni. It's not just his, overexcited personality on wide receivers. Do you think that's legit, or do you really think this team needs a 6'3" wide receiver to play that spot?
Well, he mentioned, and he mentioned three names. He mentioned T.Y. Hilton, 5'9", 180. He mentioned Keenan Allen, and he mentioned Dwayne Bowe. And
I forgot that. That name too. Yeah.
So he mentions those guys, but like the thing about it is, and the thing I really liked and I took out of it when he talked was, about watching the tape and watching these receivers and watching them go up against these other defensive backs and the college receivers and certain aspects. Like what the Eagles need is just players who can play. And like he said, talented players. We need talented players. I know he brings that up a lot, but if you watch the tape and you watch these guys, and he made such a great point about where they're catching the ball in college when you're playing against third and fourth string defensive backs who may not even make it in the NFL. So, and how they're, everything that he brought up and the passion he shows is because it's something he's so interested in and just wants to let everybody know about it. And that it's not just this clear cut thing. It's something that's really, there's a lot of aspects to it. And to me, the Eagles do need, a player on the outside that, we watched them last year. They do need somebody, but again, do they have somebody on the roster that Sirianni could turn into a player of a T.Y. Hilton or, something of that aspect? Because if you look at those guys, Keenan Allen and T.Y. Hilton, they weren't super high drafted players. So it comes with development, and if something he can do.
And with the development, as you say, he did say, I would think quarterback would be right up there with wide receiver, but he said wide receiver is one of, if not the toughest positions to transition from college to the pros. Everything that you just said, Johnny, it just shows how Sirianni is a super smart guy, and it's not, insanity. It's passion and love for the football, but he does, if you really listen to him, he really does have an extreme knowledge of what's going on the football, X's and O's wise on the football field, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. We talk about the passion piece too. I am curious to know how long Howie can put up with, like, Howie's asked a question and Nick's like, I just have to answer this as well. I heard that. I was like,
it was 2 or 3 times.
Because when Howie's there, he wants the spotlight, and Nick's like, wait, hold on. I just chugged another Red Bull. I'm here now. I'm just going to answer that too. And I went, oh, this is going to be at some point, not this first season, because I really do think that Howie's job is on the line at this point because there is such a publicity around him. If this draft pick doesn't contribute this season, I do see a realm of a chance of Howie being fired.
I give it till next year.
You gave him a full another offseason?
Just because they have potentially 3 first-round picks and he misses on all of those, he deserves to get fired. So I think they'll give him that chance to rebuild this team, or at least the next 2 seasons.
And maybe so. But again, I look at Nick Sirianni. I look at the way he talked about the wide receivers. I look at the way that he's passionate, which has been lacking for at least the last 21 seasons. Because Andy Reid is not passionate. Chip Kelly is not passionate.
Nope.
Unless he's talking about Oregon football players. Doug Peterson is not passionate unless he's talking about vanilla ice cream. You have to go back a ways to find a passionate head coach. I am excited to see a difference in the way of doing things when it comes to Nick Sirianni. Whether or not it translates to the football field and wins and losses, that's what we need to see now.
Absolutely. So that he was asked, and it's a great transition into that. They were asked about, being on the same page, the scouts, the GM, the coaches, because this has obviously been an issue, or at least reported as an issue. Again, Nick Sirianni says he doesn't care who they get as long as they got toughness, football IQ, love of the game. He doesn't care. He'll make them work. But Howie then said that they've always been on the same page with their coaches, always, and that they've always had a clear vision.
BS.
Obviously, that wasn't the case last year. Jeff, That's like an ultimate like go off Spazzy Jeff moment right there.
Yeah, look, Howie is talking out of his ass. He's openly not going to admit in a press conference that him and the owner were completely. Oh, you're going to put me on the spot? Okay,
spotlight, sir, do it.
That's what DJ Spazzy Jeff gets.
I was saying he's openly going to admit that him and Jeffrey Lurie were on a different page than his scouts and his head coach. Because we heard multiple reports over the last couple of seasons of Jim Schwartz wanting Jeremy Chin or the linebacker Patrick Queen. So we constantly keep on hearing that we're getting input from the coaches, and obviously they gave not two shits on what these guys have to say or their opinion. Otherwise, we would be hitting on these draft picks instead of drafting guys out of left field like Jalen Reagor and all these other dudes the past previous seasons. So that was just saving grace, honestly, in my opinion.
And actual left fielders as well.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I think from now on, when we go straight like explosive rants, we're spotlighting our people because
that's fine.
It deserves it.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so I'm lost now. My mind's off now. So, Johnny, anything to add to this part of the topic? We won't spotlight you if you don't want to be spotlighted.
I don't have anything. Jeff.
All right. Hey, moving on. Let's keep this going. Well. So, they were talking about the scouting combine, and this was interesting because they got in with Andy Waddle a little bit more with this because obviously he didn't really talk much, in the press conference. The differences with no combine, with no, all that stuff because of the situation. And so he said that they focused extra on pro days and extra time at the Senior Bowl. So again, normally he said they would interview 15-ish guys at the Senior Bowl. He said they interviewed all 128 players that were at the Senior Bowl. Again, overkill maybe, but at least they're doing their due diligence, I guess.
All right, so
this is why you have 12 guys that you like at the 12th pick. That's where the over the top is coming from.
Okay, so here's my thing with this. You can be really good at one thing and okay at others. Or you can be pretty good at a lot of things and not great at anything. Interviewing all 128 players means you did not really interview anybody. And I know Nick Sirianni loves football. I know he's passionate about the sport. I know he's got a love of the game. But if you are interviewing all 128 players, when in reality, you are not going to draft all 128 players, and there's probably about 50 to 60 of them that aren't even on your radar, that's a waste of your time. That's a waste of your resources. That is not a good use of the time you had. So instead of really getting to know whether or not somebody's tough, whether or not somebody has a love of the game, whether or not somebody has an IQ, you have an idea about if they have a little of the information that you're looking for. And that's not good enough at the NFL level.
Yeah, I think that's great points right there and pretty much sums up what I was thinking the whole time there. Johnny.
Yeah, but if you have there's no Senior Bowl. You can't meet with the players at Senior Bowl. You can't meet with players at the Combine. There's no Combine. You can't meet them. But my problem is it doesn't matter. 128 players, you're interviewing them. You're getting to know all these players. How many of these players would you talk to or chit-chat with at the Combine, at the Senior Bowl? Yeah, you may not physically interview 15 guys, but how many guys are you actually talking to? So, yeah, maybe it may not be 128, but to me, I don't think it's that big of a deal that I think people are making it out to be.
I would actually imagine that seeing the way Nick Sirianni deals with people, he probably interviewed 128 players, 128 coaches, 128 of their parents. Yes, you chit chat with players, but are you asking the same line of questions? Are you teaching this like a science experiment, or are you varying the questions? Therefore, you're not getting any real answers.
So Chip, here's a question for you, Chip. Did Nick Sirianni keep track of his win-loss record at Paper, Rock, Scissors through 128 interviews? 1, 2, 3, go. Again, you jumped the gun. Anyway,
I didn't.
Did he keep track of 128 win-losses there?
I don't know, but I'm sure there's somebody Harvard related in the Eagles front office that has it on the
got
spreadsheet.
A paper, rock, scissors trophy with a nameplate on it on his desk. I won 120 of the 128 of them.
Either that, or he's like calling out, "Hey, I won that one," and Howie's over there.
He has that one computed into the system, and there's a analytical statistic.
Like,
and
Shaft's a good player.
Back to seriousness on that. So, okay, and this is all rounding into that same topic. Obviously, we agree. Nick Sirianni is a smart guy, right, guys? Like, he obviously knows his X's and O's, and he's got the passion. Andy Waddle, the little he talked, you could tell he's smart. He was asked about, they've got, Johnny, 6th and 7th round picks? Like a boatload of 6th and 7th round picks this year, right?
I think they have 3 6s and 2 7s.
Okay. And he was asked about, how rare it is to hit on a 6th or 7th round pick. And, like, how do you try to figure that out? And he was like, he went into a really good detailed answer about, looking at the past, few years on who hit on what 6th and 7th round picks, what made them stand out, why they missed them and the other teams hit on them. And you could really tell that even Waddle has really good knowledge. So why is Howie not leaning on these guys that have such smart IQs and football knowledge to help make these picks? And why is Howie the end-all be-all here?
Well, the funny little tidbit with this, having all these extra picks, the Eagles have the most picks in the draft. It's funny because this is the year that the least amount of players have signed with agents. It's only 600 when it's usually over 1,000. Because of the COVID, a lot of players going back. So the pool isn't as deep as it would be in future years or normal years, if you could say.
So is the NFL similar, Johnny, to the NBA, where if you don't sign an agent, you can go back to college?
No, you have to. Once you declare for the draft,
so in the NBA, once you declare for the draft, you can still go back as long as you don't sign an agent. So it's different. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But to me, I don't know if they're even going to use all of these late picks. They may turn them over into more valuable 2022 picks, but it's tough to find productive 6th and 7th round picks. Yeah, we've seen some guys come out. A guy like Jalen Mills, I'm going to throw him out there because I can. He was a 7th round pick.
He was productive for a 7th round pick. I'll give him that.
I never said he wasn't
productive for a 7th round pick.
Jordan Mailata, 7th round pick.
But productive so far for a 7th round pick.
If you're expecting superstars out of those picks, you're looking at the wrong thing. You're supposed to hit on some. They're supposed to be productive role players. That's mostly what there's. Especially Jason Kelce, 2011. You
6th round pick,
you need to be able to role players, and you made luck into a starter or a couple starters here and there. But you have to be able to, maybe turn it into something. You're not. It's like not even a 5% success rate. So
and the things that he said. Look, for this season, we have 11 picks. I don't think we pick 11 players. I agree with you, Johnny, 100%. I don't think we pick 11 players.
It's also a money thing.
Right. But we also need, and we have to put 53 guys in uniform. And right now, that's an issue. So that's why when I look at this team, I don't go, there's going to be a quarterback picked in the first round, because we already have 2 of them in uniform. But do we have a starting caliber wide receiver on this team? We don't know. They haven't had a chance to develop. Offensive line. I mean, you look at each of the positions and you can see where that number 12 pick could be put to good use, except quarterback in this season. Use one of the 3 picks next season if Hurts doesn't pan out this year.
Yeah, obviously. So the final thing I want to bring up.
We say obviously. Hold on. We say obviously, but it's not obvious.
That's actually a good transition to the final part of the press conference I want to address was the fact that, they were asked flat out how much involvement Lurie has in the overall process, but also the draft process, and how he kind of deflects, but then vehemently says, Jeffrey doesn't say draft this player, when it's been clearly reported by multiple sources that Jeffrey Lurie, I'm looking down at the comments, I saw Brady's name. I'm thinking we drafted Tom Brady.
I would love Tom Brady. I would love Tom Brady to make our pick.
Tom Brady? Jeffrey Lurie has that say, but then Howie Roseman says he doesn't have that say. So does it annoy you that, again, obviously Howie isn't going to say Jeffrey Lurie this or that, but on the flip side of the equation, he can phrase he knows these questions are coming. Yeah. Why doesn't he phrase his answers to a way where it gives us what we already know, at the least?
Jeff? I want to start with Jeff because Jeff's been sitting there and he loves Howie Roseman so much.
He's boiling.
I just really want to get a chance to spotlight Jeff again.
Jeff's watching AEW or something like that in the background.
No, I'm watching some NHL hockey. Vegas Knights versus Sharks. I have to have something streaming down here, but look, it's. I don't even know why granted, I understand we had to have content for the show, but Phil, are you really surprised?
I'm not surprised. But again, George brings up another good comment here. It's not that I expect Howie to throw Jeffrey under the bus, but saying that Lurie doesn't have any major say. We all know Jeffrey Lurie has his fingerprint on every single draft. Why just blatantly lie? You lose even more credibility.
Because that's all this organization does is lie. They're so used to lying, they don't know what telling the truth is.
All right, well, then there's a good answer there. They don't know how to tell the truth. I appreciate that answer more than the answers that Howie Roseman give.
It's all about the misdirection, man. Because if we're smarter than you, you'll never be able to guess what we're doing next. Like it's too much of the overthinking. Look, everybody in that room today knew the answer to that question. Everybody watching the press conference knew the answer to that question. But you still can't say that your boss is screwing up all the work that you're doing. You can't do it.
I agree.
They're not going to give away anything. And if you think they are, then you're fooling yourself.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to throw into this conversation, boys, before we move on to the poll question of the week? Any final thoughts on this press conference today?
All I am going to finally add is this. I understand that as Philadelphia Eagles fans, and this is a Philadelphia Eagles town, that we are craving football. We all know, and I say we all, once again, not the extreme Eagles fans who think we're Super Bowl contenders every year. We know that this season is a rebuild season. There is a new head coach. There are question marks up and down this roster. We cannot judge this season by wins and losses. We have to look at the eyeball test. Did players get better with this new coaching regime? So breaking down, and again, we run an Eagles podcast, so we have to do it. But breaking down every single syllable that comes out of these coaches and GMs' mouths, it's not a good use of your time. Let us tune in for an hour.
It's nauseating, honestly.
Tune in for an hour with us every week. We'll do it for you. Subscribe, like us on all of our stuff, but we'll do it for you. We'll do it for you. Realize that this year you can invest in the process of rebuilding a team. Don't look for the product to be exceptional.
Right. So I'm just going to counter. So I just want more transparency from my front office. We all know it's a rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it. When the Sixers were going through the process, you didn't hear Sam Hinkie, dance around it. Sam Hinkie was pretty basically upfront and honest. Look, he didn't use the word tanking per se, but he came out. What?
They tanked.
Yeah, but they did. But he basically said, look, we're building to the future. We're doing this and that for future gains and for future purposes. He didn't say, he didn't lie, and beat around the bush.
Did he trade our leading with it? He traded our leading scorer at the end of every month. I mean, that's basically how he did that.
Right. But he never danced around it and gave lackluster answers. He said what we already knew. And that's all I want from the Eagles front office is a little transparency if they know what that word means.
Right, but remember, this is not a Sixers town, right? We watch the Sixers. We want the Sixers to win. This is a football town. So the expectation is always that they are going to go 17 or 18 or 20-0, whatever, how many games are playing this season, 46-0, make it into the playoffs and win a Super Bowl every single season. When in reality, most people don't know who's on this roster. Mm-hmm. So realize that when you look at a press conference like this, take it for face value. It was a press conference to put the Philadelphia Eagles back in the news a week before the draft. That's what it was.
Okay. All right. Johnny, anything to add?
Nope.
No. All right,
we're good.
Johnny or Jeff, anything else?
Just if I had to hear about Howie Roseman's wife going to Florida, wherever the hell freaking the comment was or whatever about Alabama players and all that type of crap, they need to keep their damn mouth shut.
Basically. All right. So let's actually move on. Last week, the poll question was worst draft pick in the last, since 2000 for Eagles history. So this week we went positive because we're all about positivity on this show, right, guys? So we went with who is the best, best first-round draft pick the Eagles have made since the year 2000. I put my 3 options up there: Carson Wentz, Brandon Graham, Lito Shepherd. I tried to get a different time frame in there with Lito Shepherd, and then other. Again, close to 230, 240 votes. Carson Wentz had 35.5% of the votes. Surprisingly, Brandon Graham had 39%. That bounced back and forth. Brandon Graham eked out the win there. Lito Shepherd, a little disrespectful, only 9.6% of the votes. Very underappreciated first-round pick of the Eagles.
Most of the voters probably were only like toddlers when Lito was playing.
Possibility. Know your team, though. Do your research. And then other got almost 16%. But mostly the same names were written in. So we'll go with Jeff first. Why the hell not? Because he's right next to me on the screen. Where did you put your vote and why?
I ultimately it was a tough decision. I'll rattle off the list of first-round picks real quick so people know the names. 2000 was Corey Simon. 2001, Frank Mitchell.
UCLA. See, I can do every college, too.
Lito Shepherd.
It's right up on my screen, too. I know him because I'm looking at the list, too. So
Jerome McDougal.
Miami.
Sean Andrews.
Arkansas.
Mike Patterson.
Southern Cal.
Broderick Bunkley.
Florida State.
And then the Eagles traded their 2 first-round picks, 2007, 2008. 2009, Jeremy Maclin. Brandon Graham, Danny Watkins, Fletcher Cox, Lane Johnson, Marcus Smith, Nelson Aguilar, Carson Wentz, Derek Barnett, Andre Dillard, and Jalen Reagor. I was torn between Lito and Wentz, but I ultimately went with Carson. Just for the fact, without Carson, that miracle season that he had where he should have been MVP if he didn't tear his leg up, we would not be talking about a Super Bowl championship team. So ultimately, I understand he was only here for a short time. His final year here in Philadelphia wasn't the greatest, but he showed you that he had the potential to be a franchise quarterback. He was an all-pro, potential all-pro. He made Pro Bowls, and without him, we do not win that Super Bowl. So ultimately, over the last 20 years or so, when it comes to our first-round talent, he ultimately, in my eyes, has to be deserving of number 1 just because of him, we got that championship.
Chip?
So, if you're looking at the very official Wikipedia of the first-round picks.
I didn't see that up.
I know. Everybody in yellow made a Pro Bowl. Okay, So let's start with that. Everybody in yellow made a Pro Bowl. When I look at this list, I think of who had the biggest contributions and at one point or another could be considered the very best at his position in the entire NFL. For me, it's one name and one name only. It's Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox is always in discussion for being the best defensive tackle in the NFL. Not the best in the NFC East, not the best in the NFC. Fletcher Cox is always in discussion to be the best defensive tackle in the NFL. He is the best first-round pick we've had in the last 20 years.
Johnny, where'd your vote go?
I'm going to throw another name out there. I'm not going to go with any of the guys on the list. Lane Johnson. I know you talked about Fletcher Cox being one of the best. Lane Johnson's, if at one point, if not now, one of the top 3 to 5 right tackles in the league. So I understand the Fletcher Cox, and I was going to maybe bring it, but once you did that, I went Lane Johnson, just because Lane Johnson is one of the best at his position as well. And I know what Wentz did.
Really disappointed that there was not more Lane Johnson comments. Fletcher Cox got a boatload of the other comments. I think like one person, maybe 2 people actually commented. Lane Johnson, I don't think he gets anywhere enough respect for what he does on that list. Right, but I almost put Lane Johnson over Lito Shepherd, but I wanted one, older time player on that list there.
But remember, Lane Johnson has a severe injury problem. You know what I mean? Since 2013.
Recently.
Right, but that's why Fletcher Cox, you don't hear about being on the injured reserve or missing games.
And also Lane, it's an offensive lineman. It's very difficult to judge offensive lineman, and he's playing right tackle. So it's not like he's playing the premier left tackle position where you're blocking the quarterback's blind side and you get all that recognition. Not denying Lane Johnson, he's a tremendous talent, especially at right tackle, but right tackle and the offensive lineman don't get as much glory as the quarterback position or other positions along the team.
Yeah, again, obviously everybody knows my Wentz is elite. I voted Wentz, obviously. I don't need to go into that. But I think there's actually probably more hits, honestly, in the last 21 years than there were misses. I mean, I just did a quick little chart here. I graded everybody. I got more hits than misses. Is that insane to think about? Are we missing something? Lito Shepherd, obviously a great cornerback. Corey Simon was not a bad defensive tackle.
It was the longevity that we lacked.
Yeah, Corey Simon went to Carolina and elsewhere. Jeremy Maclin, nobody comment. I mean, he's probably the best first-round wide receiver we've drafted in a really long time.
Which ain't saying much. Nothing.
It's true.
Nothing against Jeremy, but he piggybacked off the success of having Deshaun Jackson opposite him, because especially when Deshaun was out for a lot of those games from injury, Maclin was non-existent in some of those games. So I feel Maclin was a first-round talent, but he's more of that possession receiver. And you saw after he left to Chip's point last week for the worst draft pick, what did they do after they left Philadelphia? Maclin, for the most part, was going around the league, and he really didn't pick things up. He was always injured. So
I'm going to say Nelson Aguilar is not a miss either. I'm not saying he's the greatest first-round pick. Just like you say Carson Wentz, we don't win a Super Bowl without Carson Wentz.
I agree.
We don't win a Super Bowl without Nelson Aguilar that year. So I know he had his drops issues in 18 and 19, and I know his rookie year wasn't light the world on fire. But you know what? He was a huge, huge piece of a Super Bowl win there.
Right, but you have to – if you – remove that Super Bowl season. Look, we know we caught lightning in a bottle during the Super Bowl. We know that everything broke our way for once for the Super Bowl win. If you remove that outlier, so there you go. I'm talking analytics after spending an hour and a half beating the shit out of it on Monday night. If you analyze the numbers, right? If you remove that outlier of that one insanely successful season, yes, Carson Wentz's time in Philadelphia was mediocre. Right? He had an MVP type season that ended in injury. He led them to a regular season of excellence, which got them to the Super Bowl. But outside that, seasons ended. He missed games. He was inaccurate. His numbers went on a steady decline. Nelson Aguilar, bad drops. Derek Barnett removing the Super Bowl season where he's starting to play. Same thing. Brandon Graham took 4 or 5 seasons to be good. This draft list is okay, but out of the 17 picks in the first round, 7 of them made Pro Bowls. 7 out of 17. Look, I know the Pro Bowl doesn't matter much, but 7 out of 17 is still – that's a failing grade. That's a failing grade.
But, Chip, to that point, go take a look from 2000 to 2020, the New England Patriots first-round picks. It doesn't always equate to needing – to hit on your first-round picks. It's all about everything. And I understand it hasn't been the greatest, but there was some role players. There was some decent talent. Now, of course, there's some that's been awful. Danny Watkins, of course, and Marcus Smith, and some people who were way overdrafted. But there are a lot of decent players on here. And you got to remember where they were picking, too. They weren't picking top 10 every year.
Yeah, good point.
You have to take that into effect as well.
Well, and to that point, and you bring up the other point about the Patriots, think about where the Patriots were picking they were picking 31, 32 every time. But so when they get guys like Richard Seymour, Vince Wilfork, Jared Mayo, Devin McCourty, like Dante Hightower, these are still really good players, but they're also picking 27, 25, 32, because their foundation is already in place. The Eagles right now are banking on a successful draft. The New England Patriots have never done that.
Yeah, I mean that's the draft. That's what it is. And you know what? Real quick, we're gonna plug next week. We got a huge week next week on All About the Birds. We got a huge week leading up to this weekend, but next week we got a huge week on top of our regularly busy schedule. Next Thursday night, round 1 of the draft, we are going to be live. What time does the draft even start? I don't even know. 7:30, 8 o'clock, whatever it is. We're going to be live on the air until through the Eagles making their pick, breaking down every move, breaking down the Eagles move, obviously in great detail. We'll stay on the air a little bit after the Eagles pick. We'll see if the Eagles trade back in the first round. I don't know if it'll be a 9-hour show or not, but we are going to be on the air for several hours breaking down the NFL draft as it happens.
Eagles trade to 32 and then trade out the first round. Just watch. You're gonna be off.
If the Eagles trade to 32, we are taking a brief siesta and not doing that.
I can't keep that many cans right here. I don't have a cooler. You get like a little beer cooler for next to my table here.
And what's going to be cool about next week's show is we're going to bring in some of our draft people who have been attending these pro days, who have been writing about these, who know these prospects. So we're going to have our own like green room Mel Kipers that are going to come in and break down the picks.
Has Mel
and they're going to
Kiper's
find
hair ever changed?
What's that?
Has Mel Kiper's hair ever moved and changed? It seems like it's in the same position. Like you could see each strand from year to year is in the same place.
Right.
A little thinner on the sides.
It's a little thinner on the sides, and he's a little wider on the sides as well. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. But obviously, we got a great next 10 days worth of shows. Obviously, this show tonight. We've got, Friday night, Birds, Beer, and BS. I won't forget to shout out Peanut, the great YouTube exclusive show. I know he'd get really pissed if I forgot it again. Only on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing to Birds, Beer, and BS. Peanut's doing a hell of a job. And Party Dave and all in the background there, or whatever his name is. Shout out to Party Dave. He's the man. We got Saturday. We got the last.
What is that?
Why don't you got him on the show? What's wrong? He should have been there. You have Party Dave sitting on your lap there. Saturday.
That's right after the show.
Draft Talk show. What's the last show before the draft? What's the conversation going to be like this week?
So we have a community mock draft. It's going to be Adam, one of the writers, Dave, the other one of the writers. It's going to be Tommy, me, and then one of my buddies who's on Instagram, Raiders Elite, John. He's going to be on as well. So we're going to have a big 5-man mock draft. We're going to dive into it. Each of us are going to go pick by pick. We're going to go 2 rounds, so it's going to be fun. Yeah. A lot of players to talk about.
Still Saturday, 9 p.m. Then obviously we got Monday, Chips and Dish on top of Sixers and Phillies. I'm sure he's going to have a team of people on talking the draft because it's going to be – this is obviously the topic. This is what this offseason's been leading up to. After the draft, we're going to have nothing to talk about. But Chip and Dish, Monday, 8 o'clock, unless it's pushed back for baseball again.
I got to look. I'll look at the schedule. But yeah, kids baseball takes precedence since I coach 47 teams. I umpire. I'm always on a baseball field. But yeah, we spent last week just shitting all over analytics. This week, I think we're going to try to rebuild the Phillies inside and out because they're not doing what they need to do. And then, like you said, we're going to talk about the draft and see if the Eagles are fixable this season and what that would look like.
And on Tuesday, the only show that's not going to talk about the NFL draft.
You should.
Fairway to Heaven. We might throw in a little draft tidbit or not. We actually have a special guest. I can't announce it yet. Still confirming the time and everything that he's going to be able to make it. Another great fantasy and gambling golf expert coming on our show. Fairway to Heaven, Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Stay tuned on Twitter because we'll make the announcement on the guest on Twitter the next day or so.
Phil, you know how many minutes you should spend on the NFL draft on your show?
How many?
4!
You set him up for that one.
I can tell you're a middle school teacher with jokes like that.
So bad.
Okay. Then obviously we're going to be on here Wednesday night with the next weekly report where we're going to do some form of mock draft here amongst the 4 of us. I'm not sure. We haven't really talked about next week just yet. So I'm sure we're going to be doing detailed draft coverage, our picks, and all. The poll question of the week is going to be a draft-related question, so stay tuned for that. And then next week, after that, we'll just be breaking down what happened, and we'll be complaining about Howie Roseman, which I'm sure George is going to love. All our Howie Roseman complaining going on in the weeks post the draft. Anything else, guys, before we wrap this out? Shout out our sponsors one more time.
Just real quick, I would say first off, I don't know if you guys realize what this week is, but this week will be officially the 1-year anniversary of us forming All About the Birds. So I just want to say thank you to all our viewers over this past year, all our supporters, from the 1,000 views and downloads and comments and reads on AATBirds.com. So once again, thank you to all of you. We continue to support, appreciate. Hopefully year 2 is even better and bigger for all of our listeners.
And that's a great segue because of all of you supporting us, we've gotten to the point where we've got sponsors. and people that want their name mentioned on our show. I'm not sure why, but they do. So we've got to shout them out as always. And we've had a lot of great guests, like you said, Jeff. I was just looking at the fact that it's almost a year since we've had Ron Jaworski on the show, and we got to get Ron Jaworski for another post-draft episode. Because we've had so many great guests on this show. But our sponsors, hempbombs.com, premium CD products, AAT Birds, 20% off. You got 99jersey.com. Can they make us a Howie Roseman jersey? That would be a really cool jersey.
You can actually get
Howie Roseman jersey on 99jersey.com.
You can customize jerseys on 99jersey.com.
Let's make that up. I'm sure they'd give us a good cut of that jersey sale. And I'm sure everybody would love to buy a Howie Roseman jersey. Manscaped.com. Obviously, as one Jennifer said earlier in the show, your wives will thank you. Make sure you do that. And, of course, Statement Games. Check them out, statementgames.com. I'm putting up the sign-up link again in the chat section. Make sure you sign up to Statement Games. Fun, free fantasy site. They have a whole new spin on fantasy. Check them out as well. They got a draft one going up. I might do the first Ultimate Statement show based off of their draft Statement Game show. It's a really cool site. Check it out. But anyway, guys, I got nothing else to say tonight. Do you guys got anything else to say?
Nah, dog.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Support for All About the Birds is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. We have an exclusive offer for our listeners. 20% off plus free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. Manscaped hooked us up with a bunch of tools and formulations from their Perfect Package 3.0 kit, including the Lawnmower 3.0, which comes with an LED light for a more precise shave and is waterproof to make your shower shave clean and easy. The Perfect Package also includes a deodorant for your undercarriage to prevent odors and chafing, a reviving lotion, a pair of boxers and a t-shirt, not to mention a travel bag to store all your grooming goodies. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code AATBirds. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Your balls will thank you.